Alright, Juggernaut is in the mix. Today I'll be showing you how to use the sampler bank inside of Serato DJ Pro. So usually when you just install a program, you'll probably notice that the sampler isn't enabled. So you'll go to the gear icon up to the top right hand corner here. You click on sampler from your expansion box tab. Click on the sampler and you enable your sampler. After you enable your sampler, you click the gear icon, get rid of that, and then you click onto the horn icon up here, which looks like an ear horn. You click on that icon, the sampler section will come up. You want to expand it to get all the controls and all the features of the sampler here. So you'll click on the down arrow. Before I start adding samples, I'm going to show you what you can already see. So in the sampler bank, you have four banks. 4 banks of 8 samples. So 4 8s, 32. You can have a maximum of 32 samples in which you can add to your sets and your mixes or whatever the case may be. So over here it shows the output of a sample. I'm using a 2-channel controller which is currently connected. You can set the sampler to go to the master, in which you wouldn't have a specific volume control unless you're using probably a DJMS9 or a DJMS11, which are their dedicated sampler volumes. If you're using a 4-channel controller like the DDJ SX3, you could you can route your audio to channel 3 or 4, which is usually unused, and then you could control the sampler through those channels. But since I'm using a 2-channel controller, and usually almost everybody uses a 2-channel controller, you route it to the master. And if you need to manually control the master volume, you can use this here. And you control the volume, or you can mute the entire bank of samples. So samples it can be horns, lasers, vocals, DJ drops, and if you're from the Caribbean, you'll normally find Caribbean DJs using pull-up effects. In the Caribbean, we usually call it effects rather than samples, but you may hear me use the word interchangeably, so it's the same thing. So alright, for this crate here, I have 8 samples which I've already placed in order of how I want them to be loaded. So to load a sample, you just pull it as you would pull to your deck, and you pull a sample there. You could also add samples in bulk. So if you want, you can press the control key, and I think on Mac you guys use command, but you'll figure it out. Everyone who uses a Mac usually has used a Windows computer before, so they are aware of the corresponding keys. So anyway, you hold control and you click all the samples that you want to load, and you could pull to the first one, and it loads all the samples in the order in which it is in the crate. You don't have to do that. You can add them manually if they're not in order, or you can rearrange the order, whichever case you want to do. So I'll drop the samples down and all load into the crate, into the sampler bank. So you'll notice I have 8 samplers. The top one, which says Kaboom, that's a vocal. The second one is a horn. The third one is an explosion. The fourth one is a DJ drop, Juggernaut live in the mix. Another horn at 5. 6 is a pull-up, 7 is a pull-up, 8 is a pull-up. You can use different mixtures, so you can have 2 pull-ups, 1 pull-ups if you're into pulling up songs. Or you can have several drops, several lasers, sirens, all kind of things. It depends on how you want your mixes to be. So alright, these are I just select some samples for this tutorial. So I don't use any of these samples in my mixes. So anyway, so you notice the first sample. I'll play it now. You'll hear it. Kaboom! You can set the volume. You can volume the track. So if you have done the highest volume, you can press it again. Kaboom! You may notice that it's louder. And if that volume is not enough for you, you can come here and use the gain section. You can use the gain section and increase the volume. Or if you're in a situation in which you don't want the volume to be a sampler to be played, not to be played at all, but you don't want to interfere with your volume since its volume is already set for your mixes. Say you have the volume at say 50%, and that's where you always keep it, and that's perfect for you. And you're in a situation in which you don't want the sampler to be triggered, that specific sample to be triggered. So you can come here and use the mute section, and you mute that specific sample. This section also is for you to match the key, not match the key, lock the pitch. So when you increase, you can increase the tempo of the sample. You can increase the tempo of the sample. So when you increase the tempo of the sample, it does, when you click this button, it doesn't change the pitch, so it doesn't sound much different in rather sound. So the speed increases, but the sound of the track doesn't change. So you can change the tempo of the track right there. But I'm going to make it stay near to where it is, where it is naturally. This is for beat matching. So if for whatever reason you may add a song to the sample, you won't have your pitch bend. These are your pitch bend essentially. You won't have a pitch bend from your jog wheel to nudge the track in place. So if you want to add a song to it, you can use this to match the song match the song in time to whatever you have playing or what another DJ may be playing if that's how you're using the sample. So you'll hear the track again. Kaboom! Kaboom! Okay, that you have another one I call it boss horn right here. I can set the volume to wherever you want it. Okay, good. So after you play that, so when you're playing that track, what if, for instance, you mistakenly trigger a sample and you don't want it to be played? So on Windows, you can use the Alt button, and the lowest row of the keyboard. So the lowest row of the keyboard, that's what you use to trigger your samples. So your Z, your X, your C, your V, your B, your N, your M, and your comma for all 8 samples in that order, from left to right. So if you trigger the first sample is short, so I won't be able to demonstrate that. So say you trigger this bus horn here, and you didn't want to play it, and you want to stop it. After you press X, which would be corresponding to the second one, after you press X and you want to stop, you press Alt then X to stop the sample from playing. So you realize the sample has stopped after you press Alt with X to stop the sample. Alright, the third one I have an explosion and all of that. So all of that is in place. And you can set the samples, whatever volumes you want to set. So alright, I'm going to show you with this second to last one here. This one is a pull-up that says hold up, ready again. Anyway, so if you'll notice on the track, there's a little dead space. On the track where there is no sound. So when you trigger your sample will have to walk through here, seek through here before it starts playing what you want it to play. So what I'll do is at a cue point on my controller, you press the cue point on the right deck, or on your keyboard you press 6 for the right deck for the first cue point. So I'll trigger it and press the first cue point. So there you'll have a kind of a back spinner for the pull up. You have a back spinner or something like that. So I'll play it and then I'll stop it and you hear the backspin section. So you hear the backspin. But there's this section now that says hold up. If I don't want the backspin to play, I just want the hold up section to play, I can add another cue point, the cue point number 2. So you come into the gear icon now. When you load the track, this section here shows where you want the sampler to begin from. So you can click it down, you can use it to begin from the start, the first cue point that you said, or the second cue point. So I'll go load that track now, and you hear it in action. So right now it's set for cue point number 1. Alright, let me use the start. And then you'll see become blue when the sampler is already playing, and then you'll realize that it becomes blue for less than a second, and then it will play after. You don't want that dead space, so I use the start section. So let me play the track now. So you realize that is a little dead space, so you can use it for and play that cue point number one now. So I play the track and then you'll trigger the key, trigger the sample, and then you hear the effect, the sample play exactly as I triggered. So you realize the sample plays exactly what I played. I can set it to cue point number 2 now, in which the backspin section of the sample doesn't play and the whole up part alone plays. So I can set it to that section. So I'm going to play it and then you hear hold up only and not the backspin section. So that's basically how you'd set your samples cue points. And if you want to change the volume, you can use this, of course, for each specific sample, or you can use the gain button right here. If you max out this up fader, you can use the gain button to increase the volume of the sample. So that's basically how the sampler bank works. Let me see if I'm forgetting anything. Oh yes, the types of ways you can trigger your sample. So let me come back over to where the Kaboom is. So right now Kaboom is set on we call it stutter. You have stutter, start and stop, and while pressed. So you have stutter, start and stop, while pressed. Currently, all of them are set on stutter, except the bus horn. So this one is set on stutter. So when I press the key, every time I press the key, if it's playing, it starts over. So I press Kaboom. It starts over. The bus horn now. If I press the bus on and click again, it stops. That's start and stop. So you have stutter, start and stop. You have stutter, start and stop, and you have while pressed. So I'm going to set the third one to while press. You can see there's 3 different icons that represent each kind of way you trigger it. With while press, the sample only plays when you're actually pressing the button on your button on your keyboard, the button on your controller, your mouse, or whatever the case may be, whatever you're using to trigger the sample. So you press it. It only plays while you're pressing your button, or your performance pad, your button on your keyboard, whatever the case may be. That's the only time it plays. So that's basically how you trigger your samples. So I think I got everything now that represents how your samples play. I pre-recorded a mix to show the samplers in action. So, but these are the exact samples I used in the mix I'm going to show you after I'm finished with the tutorial. So that's basically how you operate your samples. And if you want to eject your samples and change something else, you can eject it if you don't want anything at all in the slot, or you can replace the sample with something else. So like this song here, the Bug Rhythm by DFK, like it can be a sample. So I'm going to load it in here. So you don't have to eject then add a new sample. You can add a sample there. You get what I'm saying? And you can repeat the samples too. So this button right here represents repeat. So you can repeat the samples by just clicking that button, and once you play out, its track is playing, it keeps repeating. So I'm going over the Kaboom right here to the extreme left and click repeat. So now I trigger it, it's going to keep repeating. Kaboom, 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 kaboom. And you realize it stops playing. So it's a flexible feature, and you can use it to do all kind of things, to adapt to your mixes. So alright, Juggernaut is signing off now. If you want to see more tutorials for Serato DJ and stuff like that, you can just leave a comment in this comment section. You like, share, subscribe. You know the fancy stuff. So alright, respect, blessings. Yes. If you want samples like this and other stuff, you can go on my page and look through the videos. I have a lot of samples that are on sale. You can list them and you can support the movement, you know.
Look into my eyes, tell me what you see. Can you feel my pain? Am I your enemy? Give us a better way. Things are really bad. The only friend I know is this God I have. Listen to my voice. This is not a trend. Now you say no night. Are you worried? Yeah. You be talking wrong. What you want to see? When you show us home, yeah. Until killer giving you all your own and nothing. Can't hold it back. Can't hold it back. Bandicam and Bandicam with a brand new track. It's been long. Hard work, the key to success. But you have some more to put in, not that all I expect with the best. We gonna show them why we're reigning among the greatest. So, we'll start.
This is a song that you just play a while ago. It's a very wanted song. We've been looking for that song for quite some time. That song is a brand track. You understand?
Put all those jigger fingers up. Keep them out. Hard work, the key to success. But you have some more to put in, not that talent.
Can't hold it back, can't hold it back. Bounty Killer and Baby Chef with a brand new track. It's been long gone.
Put all those jigger fingers up. Keep them out. Hard work, hard work.